Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive with your thinking tank. Today we're tackling a concept that might sound a little counterintuitive at first.
Yeah.
Lowering your expectations to zero.
Oh, yeah.
Now, before you think we're advocating for a life of apathy or just, giving up on your dreams.
Right.
Let me assure you, that's not what this is about at all.
Exactly.
Have you ever noticed how often you feel let down?
Mm-hmm.
Because things didn't quite go the way you pictured them.
All the time.
Yeah, that's where this deep dive comes in.
Okay.
We're going to explore how releasing those rigid expectations can actually be the key to unlocking more growth, gratitude, and peace in your life.
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? The idea that by letting go of expectations, we can actually create space for something even more fulfilling.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's get clear on what lowering expectations to zero actually means.
Well, it's about detaching from specific outcomes.
Right.
And embracing a mindset of openness to what unfolds. It doesn't mean becoming passive or resigning yourself to mediocrity.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we can't control everything, and that sometimes the most beautiful experiences happen when we release the need to force things to go a certain way.
I love that, releasing the need to control everything.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly trying to fit this square peg of life into the round hole of our expectations.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And think about the pressure that creates.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with messages about aiming high, setting ambitious goals, and striving for perfection. But what happens when we fall short?
Disappointment,
Yeah.
frustration, maybe even a sense of failure.
Exactly. And those negative emotions can really take a toll on our well-being.
Right.
There's actually research that shows people who tend to have fewer rigid expectations report feeling more content and adaptable in their lives.
Oh,
They're better able to roll with the punches and find joy in unexpected moments.
that makes sense. It's like they're not constantly battling against reality because they're more open to embracing what is.
Yeah.
Do you have any personal experiences that illustrate this idea?
Oh, absolutely. I used to be a master at setting myself up for disappointment with sky-high expectations.
Oh,
I distinctly remember one time when I was planning a weekend getaway with friends.
okay.
I had this picture-perfect vision in my head. Sunny weather, delicious food, endless laughter.
Wow.
You know, the whole Instagram-worthy experience.
Right.
But then, of course, reality had other plans.
Of course.
It rained the entire weekend.
Oh,
We ended up at a mediocre restaurant.
oh no.
And let's just say there were a few tense moments between friends.
Oh no. The dreaded expectation hangover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I spent the whole weekend feeling frustrated and let down because it didn't match the fantasy I had created in my mind.
Right.
It was like I was missing out on the actual experience because I was so fixated on how I thought it should be.
That's so relatable. I think we've all been there at some point.
Yeah.
But how did you start to shift your perspective?
Well, I started to notice a pattern in my life. The more I clung to expectations, the more disappointed I felt. So I started experimenting with the idea of intentionally lowering those expectations.
Okay.
I still had goals and aspirations, but I tried to release the need for things to happen in a specific way or on a specific timeline.
So instead of expecting a perfect weekend, you focused on simply enjoying time with your friends.
Right.
Regardless of the weather or other circumstances.
Exactly. And you know what?
Yeah.
It made a world of difference.
Okay.
I started to appreciate the little moments,
Okay.
the unexpected conversations, the shared laughter, even if it was interspersed with a few rain showers.
Like you were finally present to the actual experience instead of being trapped in your head.
That's it.
Right.
And that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
When we release the grip of expectations.
Okay.
We open ourselves to a world of possibilities that we might have otherwise missed.
This reminds me of that powerful quote, expectations are premeditated resentments.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's so true, isn't it? When we cling tightly to expectations, we're essentially setting ourselves up for resentment.
Right.
But when we choose to let go, we also release the potential for those negative emotions.
Yeah.
We create space for understanding, acceptance, and even gratitude for what is.
It's almost like we're trading those potential resentments for a more peaceful and joyful experience.
Yeah.
Now, before we go any further, I want to emphasize that lowering expectations doesn't mean giving up on ambition or settling for less than you deserve.
Right.
It's more about shifting your focus from the outcome to the process and finding joy in the journey itself.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a perfect segue into exploring the incredible benefits that come with adopting this mindset.
Okay.
So for all you deep divers out there, stick with us as we uncover how letting go of expectations can actually lead to a more fulfilling and joyful life.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Just kidding.
We're diving right back in. All right, we're back and ready to explore how letting go of expectations can actually lead to a more fulfilling and joyful life. It sounds a bit paradoxical, doesn't it?
It does, but think about it. When you release the pressure of needing things to go exactly as planned,
Right.
you create space for a sense of ease and peace.
Okay.
That's hard to find when you're constantly striving for a specific outcome.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're giving yourself permission to just be present in the moment without the weight of those expectations dragging you down.
Exactly. And that brings us to the first major benefit,
Okay.
a reduction in stress and anxiety.
Oh,
When you're constantly trying to force life to conform to your expectations, you create this internal battle that can be incredibly draining.
it's like you're setting yourself up for an emotional roller coaster with every unmet expectation sending you plummeting towards disappointment.
Right. And over time, that can really take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being.
For sure.
But when you release those rigid expectations, you're essentially stepping off that roller coaster and onto solid ground.
So less drama, more peace. I like the sound of that. What other benefits can we expect to see when we start to loosen our grip on expectations?
Well, our relationships can benefit tremendously. Think about how often conflicts arise because someone doesn't meet our expectations.
Yeah.
Maybe your partner forgets to take out the trash, or a friend cancels plans at the last minute.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Right. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of resentment and frustration.
Yeah.
But when we approach these situations with a mindset of lowered expectations, we can create space for understanding and compassion.
So instead of immediately jumping to anger or disappointment, we could take a step back and try to see the situation from the other person's perspective.
Exactly. And that can make a world of difference in how we navigate those inevitable bumps in the road of any relationship.
Right.
It's about recognizing that everyone is human, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone is doing their best with the resources they have in that moment.
It's about extending that same grace to others that we're hopefully starting to extend to ourselves.
That's beautifully put. And when we approach our relationships with this mindset, we're less likely to feel let down and more likely to experience genuine connection.
This is all so powerful.
Mhm.
And I can't help but think about how this shift in perspective can also impact our sense of gratitude.
Oh, absolutely. When we release those rigid expectations, we create space to appreciate the good things that are already present in our lives. Instead of focusing on what's missing or what didn't go according to plan, we can start to notice the abundance all around us.
It's like we're shifting our focus from lack to abundance, from what we don't have to what we do have.
Exactly. And that shifting perspective can be incredibly transformative.
Okay.
It allows us to experience joy and contentment in the present moment, regardless of external circumstances.
You know, all of this is reminding me of the concept of mindfulness,
Right.
of being fully present in the here and now.
There's definitely a connection there.
Yes.
When we release the grip of expectations, we free ourselves from the mental chatter of what ifs and should haves,
Right.
and become more attuned to the beauty of the present moment.
It's like we're finally able to savor the experience without all that mental noise getting in the way.
And that's where true fulfillment lies.
Oh,
It's not about chasing some idealized future or dwelling on past disappointments.
right.
It's about embracing the richness of this moment right here, right now.
This is all starting to feel less like lowering expectations and more like raising our overall level of happiness and well-being.
I love that. And there's one more benefit we need to discuss,
Sure.
one that's especially relevant for those of us who are driven and goal-oriented.
Okay.
Letting go of expectations can actually enhance our ability to achieve those goals.
Now that's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
How can lowering expectations lead to greater achievement?
It all comes down to releasing the fear of failure. When we detach from the need for a specific outcome,
Right.
we're more likely to take risks,
Right.
try new things, and persist even when faced with challenges.
So it's not about giving up on our goals,
Right.
but about approaching them with a more flexible and adaptable mindset.
Exactly. We can still set ambitious goals and work diligently towards them,
Okay.
but we don't allow the fear of not achieving them to paralyze us.
Right.
We embrace the journey, the ups and downs, and the lessons learned along the way.
This is all incredibly insightful, but I have to admit it's a bit of a mind shift. I think our listeners might be wondering, how do we actually start putting this into practice?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the concept intellectually, but it's another thing altogether to embody it in our daily lives.
So where do we even begin? What are some practical steps we can take to start incorporating this idea of lowering expectations into our lives?
Well, there are a few key practices that can be incredibly helpful. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to replace expectations with intentions.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Right.
Okay, so let's say you're going into a job interview. Instead of saying, I expect to get this job,
Yeah.
you might shift your thinking to, I intend to showcase my skills and experience to the best of my ability.
Exactly. You're taking ownership, focusing on what you can actually do, not just wishing for a specific outcome.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about empowering yourself rather than waiting for something external to happen. What's the next element in this trifecta?
The second part is all about recognizing and appreciating progress. We're calling this step celebrate small wins.
This is where the gratitude piece really comes into play, isn't it?
Absolutely. Instead of only feeling satisfied when you reach that big ultimate goal, train yourself to appreciate every step forward. Finished a challenging project at work, celebrate it. Mastered a new cooking technique, give yourself a high five. Every step forward, no matter how small, is worth acknowledging.
I love that. It's about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Hmm?
There's always something to celebrate, even amidst challenges. Okay, what's the final element of the framework?
This one might be the toughest, but it's so crucial for growth and resilience. We're calling this step accept setbacks as lessons.
I have a feeling this is going to require a serious perspective shift.
It might, but it's so worth it. Look, things aren't always going to go smoothly. You're going to encounter obstacles, experience failures, maybe even face some outright rejections. That's just part of life.
That's true. No one escapes life unscathed.
Exactly. But instead of viewing these setbacks as personal defeats, see them as valuable learning opportunities. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from this challenge?
So it's about reframing those so-called failures as stepping stones on the path to success.
You got it. Even when it feels like you're taking a step back, you're gaining valuable experience that will serve you in the long run.
This entire conversation has been a masterclass in perspective shifting. I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new toolkit for navigating life's ups and downs.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself, keep practicing these principles, and you'll be amazed at the transformation that unfolds.
So to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Lowering your expectations is not about giving up or resigning yourself to mediocrity. It's about releasing the emotional weight tied to rigid outcomes and embracing a mindset where gratitude, growth, and peace can thrive. It's about finding freedom in the present moment and embracing the journey, setbacks and all.
Beautifully said. And before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question.
What's one expectation you're ready to let go of starting today? Think about it, write it down, share it with a friend. If you're watching us on YouTube, share it with us in the comments below. Your insights might just inspire someone else to take that same leap of faith.
And speaking of sharing, if this episode resonated with you, please do us a huge favor and share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. And for all of you joining us on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive. For those of you listening on Instagram, Spotify, or TikTok, give us a follow for more thought-provoking content.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's guaranteed to expand your mind and transform your life. Until then, keep those expectations low and your spirits high.
See you next time.